the Bitcoin story is going to move too. Now, the other thing is these governments, they're not sitting there doing nothing. They're cutting interest rates, right? So from their perspective, they're about to go into massive deflation.
I'm happy to report that we made substantial progress between the United States and China in these very important trade talks.
The next 90 days and then the next year after, I mean, this is looking pretty good. I think that means all crypto gets reevaluated. I think the SEC gets changed. I think money printing is going to continue, will go on. That'll be very good for Bitcoin. And I think we immediately jump to well above 100,000. I mean, 140,000, 180,000, something.
Today, the U.S. finalized a significant trade agreement with China following talks involving Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. This marks a major global development, and the crypto market is responding. Bitcoin is on the verge of hitting a historic price milestone, much sooner than many anticipated. According to seasoned investor and Wall Street veteran Fred Krueger, we're on the brink of a financial wave that could launch Bitcoin to unprecedented highs. Krueger points to a massive inflow of capital from traditional finance into Bitcoin, noting that the scale of this movement is being widely underestimated. As more institutional players enter the space, he believes this momentum could trigger a surge unlike anything we've seen before. Currently, Bitcoin is trading just above $14,000, having gained nearly 8% in the past week alone. Krueger emphasizes that we're about to enter uncharted territory for crypto. Let's dive into the interview where he shares his latest Bitcoin forecast and what he sees ahead in the coming month. Before we continue with the rest of the video, do check out daily 5-minute crypto newsletter with all the latest crypto and Bitcoin news. It's a fantastic analysis of on-chain crypto data and breakdowns, and the best part is it's absolutely free. They'll cover expert predictions, breakdowns of on-chain crypto data, and any breaking news you need to know, all in a nutshell. Click the first link in the description and enter your email to join over 50,000 others in becoming a better crypto investor right now.
The numbers are just so big. We're going to a 7-figure Bitcoin price. That's what's happening. And now the amount of cash, the amount of assets that are in TradFi are so big. And I think people in Bitcoin fail to see this. This is the math that I think is really important. You have $100 trillion of assets in TradFi and $100 billion worth of assets that are deployed in a form that can be consumed by TradFi. 100 billion. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's 1/10 of 1%.
Yep.
Okay. Now, what's the chance that 1/10 of 1% goes to 1%? We'll say 100%. Yeah, it is. It is 100% chance that we are going to go from 1/10 of 1% to 1%. And we'll probably go from 1% to 5% ultimately, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe more. Well, that's a 10x in terms of money invested into this thing.
Yeah.
That means that the Bitcoin price is going to go up 40x, roughly. Right? We're going to go from 1 trillion to 41 trillion in terms of market cap, which is to say about $2 million per Bitcoin. So you can see that the sheer math is just amazing, right? And what did I not include in that? The rest of the world, right? I didn't include China. I didn't include Europe. I didn't include any of that. I didn't include real estate. I didn't, so the numbers are just so big. The amount of cash, the amount of assets that are in TradFi are so big. And I think people in Bitcoin fail to see this. They're not used to these numbers. They haven't really analyzed these numbers. There's a tsunami of cash, a tsunami of money that will want to get into this asset, right? The big story here is asset allocation and just the size of the flows that we're looking at here. I think it's just amazing. And I think Bitcoiners they don't understand how big it is. They really don't. They just, and it's, to give you another example, there's $6 trillion in money markets sitting out there. $6 trillion.
That's crazy.
I mean, could we have 20% of that goes into Bitcoin? Sure. Why not? Without even a drop that comes from real estate or the QQQs or anything else, right? And this doesn't even include any future growth of the money supply.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm just saying, like, I cut down every single thing by 5x, and I'm still getting that this thing's going to, north of 1 million very, very easily, right? And so I think this stuff's happening. This is the mega trend, and you don't need to be too clever when you have one of these mega trends. You just need to get on board, and that's I think the message. We're going to a 7-figure Bitcoin price. That's what's happening. And now either you can kind of like mentally get on board with that number. And if you do, you shouldn't have a 1% allocation to Bitcoin, or 2%, or even a 10%. Those numbers are too low. Fortunately, I'm fortunate that I kind of discovered this, roughly, 5 years ago. But it wasn't like my first introduction to Bitcoin, but I finally got the religion 5 years ago. And but even if you get the religion today, it's like we're still very early in this process. So people are going to look back and they're going to be like, how the hell did you get in Bitcoin in 2024? It's like, what a genius you were to buy at 72,000.
A recent prediction by renowned crypto analyst Plan B has captured the spotlight in the crypto community, fueled by the rising impact of Bitcoin ETF. But that's just the start of an extraordinary outlook that maps out Bitcoin's potential price path through 2027. According to Plan B, we could witness a series of events that drive Bitcoin's price from $200,000 in the near term, climbing to $500,000 by 2025, and possibly even reaching a staggering $1 million by the end of next year.
So it's about $100 trillion total. That's the size of the U.S. TradFi market, right?
Yep.
So now let's sort of say, okay, how much of that 100 trillion, that is, investors like you or me, or also institutions like pension funds, et cetera, own, all these things. And a lot of it's not self-directed, right? So the advisors, who are advising on behalf of people, right? So it's 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. It's 1/3 institutions, 1/3, directed investing, and then 1/3 self-directed, investing. And you ask yourself, of that $100 trillion pie, how much of it is currently allocated to Bitcoin? And your first instinct is to say, well, Bitcoin's $1 trillion, a little bit more than $1 trillion, 1.4 trillion. So it's 1%, but it's not, because actually that's just the amount of money that's in Bitcoin as a whole, right? But if you look at the ETFs have roughly about 1 million Bitcoin right now, including Grayscale. Okay. And if you throw in, so it's about $70 billion worth of Bitcoin. Let's throw in MSTR, right? And you're getting roughly $100 billion, right? You probably can get 10x without very much effort at all with Bitcoin in the next 10 years. You know what I mean? You're going to get a 10x. So for you to take risks on something else, it's got to be pretty exceptional. I wouldn't throw darts at the wall and buy meme coins at all. Like, no point whatsoever.
Yeah.
Even if you have a little bit better chance than average of succeeding, it's still not worth it, because you've got just this amazing opportunity with Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well,
so I mean, I sort of tell people, if you should be 90. Your allocation between Bitcoin and anything else should be 95% Bitcoin. If you want to play around and do some other stuff, that's fine. Look, I like art on Bitcoin. I'm all for it. So I think there are these niche markets, and everything's going to go to Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin could be a platform for a lot of things. But let's be honest, it's won these wars, right? It is won. The biggest barrier is probably legal, right? So the biggest thing is Bitcoin needs to be legal tender, which means that if I buy and sell Bitcoin, there's no tax on the transaction. I don't have to report that as buying some speculative commodity, right? It has to become legal tender, right? In El Salvador, it's legal tender now, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to report. If I buy Bitcoin, sell Bitcoin, it doesn't matter, for US dollars, which is their second currency, right?
Yep.
So I think that's the first thing is ultimately And there's steps along the way. So the first step would be, let's not have any tax requirements for some amount of, let's say, $20,000 worth of Bitcoin a year. You don't even have to report taxes on, That's the first thing, right? And then there's all other legal things like, getting rid of KYC to buy Bitcoin. We don't need to have that. Like, why do we need KYC to buy Bitcoin? Why do if you want to buy Bitcoin, you should just be able to buy Bitcoin. Like, you don't need KYC to go do most of the things you do in your life. And to put this, like, put your selfie, passport, do this, turn this way, biometrics, and have your every single thing be in a giant computer somewhere is not good, right? So I think we have to go through these phases of institutional adoption. And right now, Bitcoin is treated like the enemy, and start treating it as, this is actually could be really good for the US, right? So, and I think if we look at it that way, like, this is really good. We mine most of the Bitcoin in the US. We're earlier than most people. If we start adding Bitcoin, we create a reserve of Bitcoin, it'll be good. If we can be pioneers at Bitcoin, if we can be ahead of China at doing this, it'll be good, right? It's sort of like, do you want to be the last person to adopt the internet or AI? No, you don't. You want to be right there at the beginning, right?
Fred Krueger is doubling down on Bitcoin with some bold predictions for the months ahead. Now fully focused on the crypto space, Krueger introduces the groundbreaking Bitcoin power law model and explains why he believes a $1 million Bitcoin isn't just a possibility, it's inevitable. He views the current market volatility as a natural stage in Bitcoin's evolution, presenting what he calls a once-in-a-lifetime investment opportunity. Krueger emphasizes Bitcoin's decentralized structure and fixed supply as key advantages, arguing that these qualities uniquely position it to weather economic storms and ultimately outperform traditional fiat currencies. His belief is clear. Bitcoin isn't just a speculative play, it's the future of money. And those who invest now could be part of a financial revolution. What's your take on Fred Krueger's vision for Bitcoin and the direction of crypto in the near future? Share your thoughts in the comments below. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.